All right, Dogs by Nature Rufio here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Greg Newsome II, the Cleveland Browns 2021 first round pick. Love this kid. Love him as a prospect. Love that we got him at the 26th pick. I think that's incredible value. I thought he would have been gone in the early teens to be able to sit tight 26, still get a player of this caliber, and honestly, in a spot on a defense where we could really probably use a guy, was amazing. Now, I think a lot of Newsome as a player. Over this video and the next one, we're going to be breaking down exactly what I like about him. But today we're going to be focusing mostly on the Northwestern scheme. And something you've heard probably from Paul DePodesta, from Andrew Berry, from Kevin Stefanski, from Joe Woods, from everybody who's going to be talking about Greg Newsome is that he's what they call scheme agnostic, right? This is a guy that I think really what that means, he's versatile. He's also demonstrated he can play a variety of techniques and play each of them pretty well, actually. This is not a jack of all trades, master of none. This guy is a master of 3 or 4 trades, and he's a jack of 2 or 3 others on top of that. So I love Newsome. I think if his pro day numbers are to be believed, which I take them all with a big chunk of salt this year, because they're all, there was no combine. They're all happening at school facilities. And, as an Ohio State fan, I've definitely seen some, I don't know what they're doing with these 40 times, but man, they shave something off somehow. I don't know how you could lie about the bench press numbers or the jumps, so I tend to trust those more this year. I think the jumps in particular are probably more applicable anyway. They show a lot more lower body power. But in any event, he appears to be a good athlete relative to his draft class. And if he is as good of an athlete as advertised, I think his ceiling is extremely high in the NFL. I think his floor is also very, very high. Now, I chose this play to break down not because Newsome did anything spectacular or even really fun, but it is to show essentially how Northwestern's defense worked in their base coverage. Okay, so this is Northwestern's quarters coverage. By the way, this is Newsome up here at the top of the screen. He's number 2. You're going to see in this game, Newsome is always on the left side of the formation. So Newsome played all over in this game, right? And some games, they would just line him up on the left and say, hey, you got that side of the field. Other games, they would line him up over a specific receiver, and he would kind of trail that receiver, as we've seen Denzel Ward do. In yet other games, right, in college, these hash marks are very, very wide compared to the NFL. And I mean, wide enough that it makes a difference. A lot of teams in college will align sometimes personnel, sometimes they'll set a formation based on, are you to the field, meaning the side with more space, or are you to the boundary side, meaning the condensed side of the field. And so Newsome in some games would always play the boundary, or he'd always play the field. I think in the Ohio State game, he always played the side with more wide receivers, if I'm remembering that correctly, in the Big Ten Championship. In any event, you've seen Newsome do it all, right? And that's kind of the cool thing. He's not only, you can project him into doing it all. You've seen him do a lot of things in this Northwestern defense, and you've seen him do them well. Now, this quarters coverage, how does it work, right? You might hear quarters and think of an old school, almost basically a prevent defense where all 4 DBs are playing this really soft, really off coverage and just really taking away the deep stuff. This is not how quarters is played against these spread offenses. This is contemporary quarters type coverages. Northwestern played somewhat of a flavor of the kind of Pat Narduzzi, Chris Ash flavor of quarters. So if you're familiar with those defensive coordinators, it's going to be kind of similar to what they did, what they continue to do. But basically, in this quarters coverage is a much more aggressive form of quarters than you may have seen in Madden, for example, right? In this form of quarters, you're going to see these safeties, first of all, align really aggressively. Typically, Northwestern safeties are about 10 yards off the ball, heels at 10 yards. And if you compare that to, let's say, a Greg Williams defense, right? You remember that the Jabril Peppers on the Moons memes that we were seeing? Jabril Peppers in Greg Williams' defense would not be on this screen currently, right? That was a 21-yard, which we might see his toes right here, to 25-yard, actually, alignment off the ball for that deep middle field safety in Greg Williams' scheme. So to see these safeties at less than half that, That tells you how aggressive they're being with these safeties. Now, these safeties' job is kind of complicated in this quarter scheme. They have to be really disciplined. They have to read uh, not only run or pass, but also once it becomes pass, what to do in coverage. So, you know, basically, uh, the reason teams will play this style of quarters coverage is against a running quarterback, right? With all the read option stuff you can do. They want to get not one extra defender in the box, but actually the potential of two extra run defenders. So both safeties will potentially vacate the middle of the field, come forward, and play the run. Okay. Now, conversely, if the safeties read pass, right, they're going to look to number two. And by number two, I don't mean the second best receiver. I mean the second guy from the outside. So we count number one, number two. It's going to be that guy, right? So this safety is going to be reading that guy off the snap. If he runs pass route, right? If we see pass on the line, pass blocking on the line, he's running a pass route. That safety's got a pass read. And if this number two runs vertical, right, runs a kind of a seam route or a deep post or deep in or something like that, this safety is going to take him man to man the whole way. Okay, so these safeties have to be aggressive run players, yet also be able to play tight ends, slot receivers, running backs on these deeper routes and be able to follow them down the field. Now, why do I talk about the safety's job? We're here, thinking about Greg Newsome. Your basic takeaway there is that this safety cannot be relied upon for help in this coverage. This safety could be eaten up by either a vertical route by number one or by a run, right? A run read or by a play action read. So if this player plays in the bubble or we get play action that safety triggers downhill, you as Greg Newsome, as the corner out there, are on a complete island, no help anywhere, man to man against this wide receiver on the outside. That is also going to be the job if this number one wide receiver runs vertical, similar to safety's job with number two. If number one goes vertical, you have him man to man. So Greg Newsome has to be in a spot where he can always play this receiver man to man, and he does not have to count on any safety help anywhere on the field. Now, just to show you how this works, this play is going to be actually a run play. So what you see from Newsome, the receiver's not running his best route here, not pushing 100%. But from Newsome, we're going to see him smooth backpedal. And, Newsome's legs just look like a sewing machine needle to me. They're just going up and down. I love this kid's backpedal. I think Joe Wood's going to work with him even more, but, man, he's got quick feet. He's going to backpedal. He's going to turn his hips out of it, and the threat's pretty much gone at that point. But you see him stay disciplined, stay on top of that receiver. And, again, if number one goes vertical, he's got him man-to-man the whole way. You see him in a position where he can close on any underneath route and yet take away the deep. Now, if we look at where the ball actually goes in this play, right, the exciting stuff, this is actually going to be a run. So you see it here, stuff for no gain. It really should have been a tackle for loss, but the defensive tackle, nose tackle, couldn't wrap up on the ball carrier. But you see the way that the safeties kind of have to play in this scheme. So as the run happens to the right, safety here has kind of got to be worried about the threat of the quarterback on a read option here off the backside of the play. Right, he's got his defensive end who, in theory, should be taking up this gap at the outside, but a fast quarterback, running around the edge, if you beat that guy as this safety, you have to be there to kind of, clean that play up over the top. Now, the other safety has got to be worried about a speedy slot receiver and a tight end to his side of the field. Both come vertical off the ball, and so you see him take a couple steps out of his back pedal, but once they stop to block the linebackers, you see that safety put his back foot in the ground and trigger downhill in a hurry. Just look how few frames it takes for that safety to come forward and his body lean there. That tells you how aggressively these safeties will trigger once they get a run read on a play. And you can basically see that Purdue has enough guys to block everybody in front, except they don't have a guy to block the safety, right? That's why you're bringing them in this quarters coverage, is because you bring an extra guy into the run support on both sides of the formation, really. So it doesn't matter which way the offense runs, you always have that free hitter there. Now, if we look at this from the end zone angle, you see just how much of a missed opportunity for a tackle for loss this is. Purdue also does kind of screw up their blocking scheme, so we're going to see the center and guard on the play side of the formation here. They're running a zone play, much like the Browns will run. They both start double teaming the nose and then think they have responsibilities elsewhere. So Nobody ends up blocking the nose, which is why he's able to make that hit on the ball carrier in the backfield. But if you could see, the play right here, the nose tackle has this A gap. Linebacker's got the backside A. This defensive end can play inside. The safety's going to come outside, and we got linebackers, 2 linebackers on the outside as well. So basically, Northwestern is able to fill all those gaps by triggering that safety. But what does that do? That puts your corner in a real spot where that corner has to be able to play man-to-man everywhere on the field. All right, this is the very next play, and we're actually seeing Northwestern's kind of most common changeup to their quarters coverage. So you'll see, again, both safeties align in that tight, aggressive shell. Corners, you'll see Newsome and the other corner, you'll see in press, you'll see in off. A lot of times they will press when there's only one vertical threat to their side, right? So if there's only, there's no tight end here, there's no slot receiver, right? So this corner, the only vertical threat is the guy he's right over. That's when you'll see these cornerbacks press. You'll see them play off, as we do here, when there are multiple threats that could threaten vertically and outside. And in this scheme, depending on how the routes play out, you got to kind of pattern match. And so you could end up having to take number 2 or something like that. Basically trading, switching, right? Play man-to-man, but switching. And so you have to align a position where you can see all that happening. In any event, it's going to start out looking exactly like quarters, and we're going to see it rotate right at the snap to a cover 3 look. So we see the safety here drop deep. The other safety rolls up into the box, and this is going to be, Newsome is going to be a deep player, and this corner is going to be a deep player as well. And yes, you will see Northwestern line up with these press corners, even if they have a deep third responsibility. And that, I believe, is exactly how Joe Woods wants his corners to play. We saw his corners in San Francisco play like that. We saw his corners in Seattle play like that. And we saw them in Denver at times play like that as well. So we're going to see this rotate to a cover 3. I think there's a much more common coverage for the Browns. But again, this is going to be a run play. And this play actually showcases this is one of my favorite plays from Greg Newsome. I think it's really underrated. Newsome is not a big hitter, right? He's not like a huge Patrick Peterson guy you can count on to almost be a linebacker, coming in from the corner spot. He's small, right? Like in compared to NFL players, he's going to be smaller. He's bigger than Denzel Ward, but he's not a big corner. But he is physical. He's willing to come up and hit. I think he redirects in space extremely, extremely well. So here, Purdue is actually running this kind of reverse to Rondale Moore, who was a very highly rated prospect this year in the NFL draft himself. Very, very athletic player, pretty much Purdue's premier playmaker. And so Purdue really fools the Northwestern defense on this one. I mean, just look at how many black shirts are out here in front of Rondale Moore, and all the white shirts are trapped inside. And so if Rondale Moore gets this edge, the only guy out there is Greg Newsome. Right? He's the only one left in a white shirt out there who can make a play. And so Newsome knows, even though he had a deep third responsibility here, and he's not technically supposed to have a really strong run support responsibility, he knows he's got to come up and make this play. And he does. He closes on the ball carrier, breaks down. Rondale Moore puts a little juke on him, but I love that Newsome is able to kind of just dip around this block right here and make the tackle. And really, that's a play based on how well Purdue fooled the Northwestern defense, and all these guys here got sucked out of their run support, out of their lanes. This should have gone for a lot more, and it goes for a lot more if Greg Newsome does not make this tackle. So if we take a look at it from the end zone angle, you can again see here, right, whole lot of black shirts out in front, Rondale Moore in space, but Greg Newsome is able to bite on the juke, redirect, and still get his head in there and get his arm in there and wrap Rondale Moore up around the waist. So he might not be a big hitter, but he is physical. He is willing to stick his head in there, and then I think he's very good redirecting in space. All right, so it turns out this Northwestern game plan is great for me because this is, again, the very next play. But we're seeing here now another changeup in the Northwestern defensive scheme. And so here we see them align with a single high safety, but instead of cover 3, instead of a zone, they're going to be playing man. So this is just cover 1 man. Typically with this, you'll get 1 guy deep, 4-man rush, 5 eligibles covered by 5 people, and then you have one last guy. That guy usually is a short underneath zone defender. He can also become a rusher as well if you want to set in a 5-man pass rush after the quarterback. But when we're in man-to-man, we tend to see a lot of this. So again, Newsome this game, all game is on the left. We see Newsome press, stick right on his receiver, no separation, and we see quarterbacks going the other way, right? They don't even want to test him. And so I know Newsome didn't get a lot of interceptions in college, but this is a large reason why. I think in the Big Ten game, Ohio State threw at him one time. And so, when we see Newsome in man-to-man or any potential man-to-man situation, we tend to see the ball go the other way. Newsome does not give up a lot of separation. It's one of my favorite things about him as a corner. And here the quarterback decided to try the opposite side of the field to the other corner, and it didn't go so well. Right? So again, college hash marks wider than the NFL, and so rather than test Newsome here with a much shorter throw, where the quarterback can probably be more accurate, get the ball in there with more zip, they decided to go all the way across the field with the out, even though it's a mirrored play. All right, so here's a play. If you saw the Nathan Zagura and Dane Brugler breakdown, they broke this one down as well. But this is yet another coverage that Northwestern likes to run as a changeup, okay? So, again, they're in their quarter shells. So this looks like quarters. This looks like their vanilla-based defense. But what's going to happen is instead of playing aggressive and matching number 2, these safeties are going to bail out to a deep cover 2. And the corners are going to basically play a trap coverage. So they're going to look like they're going to also be playing quarters, maybe take a step back even, and then come up and play this flat zone again, as a cover 2 corner. So this is yet another changeup you see in the Northwestern defense, but this is more of a squat technique. So here Newsome's job is redirect that receiver inside. So if he's running, even a corner route here, the safety has time to get over the top. And then Newsome's going to play things underneath. So you're going to sit in that and kind of hold, taking away these curl routes on the outside. And then if the quarterback's shoulders go to the flat, you go to the flat, right? Especially once you see that ball come loose with only one hand on it, right? The other hand come off the ball. You put your foot in the ground, you trigger forward, and Newsome closes on his play in a hurry. Not only does he close, but again, making tackles in space. I said he wasn't the biggest hitter, but man, he stopped the guy here for no gain on the play. And I'll play this in real time because you got to see Newsome's just burst to the ball. This is one of my favorite things about him. Once you see that ball go, those first 3, 4, 5 steps that he puts in the ground are just lightning quick, and he closes that distance in a hurry, and he's excited about coming up to make a tackle. So again, he's not going to be a big, 220-pound corner out there, but he is going to stick his nose in there. He's going to play tough. He's going to make tackles, and he can get guys on the ground. All right, so we've seen Greg play kind of that matchup zone out of their base quarters. We've seen him play a cover 3. We've seen him play cover 1. We've seen him play off, right? We've seen him play kind of a trap coverage where he feigns being off and then is going to come up and play the underneath receivers. So here is the last clip I'm going to show for this video. This is Greg playing real press man coverage. This is going to be 2 deep with man underneath, right? So we got safety help over the top. Now you can afford to play real aggressive, press the receiver at the line, get in even a trail position, and follow the receiver down the field. And so Greg here is patient with his feet, get the nice back pedal, really smooth hips on the opening turn. Is able to again blanket the receiver, play underneath him because he knows he has that safety help over the top, reduce the receiver's space to the outside of the field for any outside breaking route. With the receiver so wide, of course you want to play him inside. Why would you play him outside when he's that wide down the field? And we see Greg not only do that full man turn and be able to run with the receiver, but he also always is good at getting his head back, right? He gets his head back around, finds a throw, and is able to get a hand on the ball as it goes out of bounds. This is typically what you see from Greg Newsome when he's in that man-to-man coverage in this scheme. Is really boring stuff. It just doesn't allow separation. And when the quarterbacks goes away, it tends to not be that exciting. But if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, it's pretty exciting because we can think about him doing this to NFL receivers next year. Again, hopefully Craig's pro day numbers are not lying to us. He does have that kind of potential because we see him polish in every aspect of his game, right? Again, off coverage, press, man to man, zone. We see him playing everything in this scheme. And that's why I believe really we're seeing him being called scheme agnostic by the Browns front office. And for me, it's a reason where I think he has a high floor because he's shown me on tape that he can do all this stuff, do it at a high level, and he's not going to need to that much development at the NFL level. He's at least going to have some college training to go back on for every situation. All right, so hopefully, that explained a decent amount about Greg Newsome's coverages in college. I'm going to talk more about his individual plays and what impressed me so much from him on tape in the next video. Thanks for tuning in, Browns fans. Make sure to see us for the next one, part 2 of Greg Newsome. As always, we're over at dogsbynature.com for all your Cleveland Browns news and analysis. And join us there for the conversation. Let me know what you think. Are you excited about Greg? You think we should have gotten somebody else? What do you tell me what you think in the comments over at Dogs by Nation. We'll see you there.